So today we're going to look at three of the most common types of charts and graphs. This is a bar graph, a line graph, and a pie chart. Let's start off with the bar graphs. And a bar graph is usually used to describe differences between different categories of things. In this bar graph, we have categories of types of food and the number of people who chose that as their favorite. And then those choices are compared between the years 2015 to 2018. Then we're going to look at a line graph. And a line graph usually shows us differences in trends over a period of time, and usually with less drastic changes. Like this line graph, which shows us the differences in book sales from month to month. And then this is our pie chart that shows us how something is divided. This pie chart shows us how many people approve, disapprove, or are unsure about their government. Okay, so let's get into how we can specifically describe what's happening in a chart. And let's take a look at some verbs. So if we want to describe a trend that is going up, we can use these verbs, for example. Increase, rise, go up, climb. And when trends are going down, we can use these verbs. Fall, decrease, decline, drop, reduce. And when there is no change in the trend, we can say stay the same, remain the same, or hold steady. Now, these are just some examples of verbs that you could use. There are many, many more, but let's just take a few at a time. So when we're describing a trend, we can also use a noun. So let's take a look at the verb changed into a noun. For example, to increase is the verb, and the noun is an increase. To rise changes to a rise. To climb changes to a climb. To decrease, a decrease. To drop, a drop. For example, if we look at our line graph, we can say that there was a decrease in sales in March, or book sales decreased in March. Now, usually we want to make our trends sound a little more exciting and not just use a verb or a noun. And in this case, we want to add an adverb. And an adverb will describe the verb or the noun. Most adverbs will end in ly. So let's take a look at some. Slightly, gradually, rapidly, significantly, dramatically, sharply, steadily. And if we're using a noun, then our adverb will be like this: a slight, a gradual, a rapid, or a significant. For example, in our line graph, we can see that in February, book sales dropped slightly, and slightly meaning only a little bit. So there was a drop, but you're being more specific and you're saying slightly. And so I'm using a verb and an adverb. Drop is the verb and slightly is the adverb. But in March, we see a significant decrease in sales. So this is telling us, yes, there was a decrease, and yes, it was a big decrease, a significant decrease. So here I'm using a noun plus the adverb. A decrease and significant. In April, we can see that book sales gradually started to increase again. So they started to increase, but slowly or gradually. Okay, so let's take a look at our bar graph now. Here we have information about people's favorite food and how that changed from 2015 to 2018. Let's focus on French food, for example. In 2016, it seems that French food was the most popular, but in 2017, we see it is the least popular. So we can say something like this: There was a dramatic change in the popularity of French food from the year 2016 to 2017. Or the popularity of French food sharply declined from 2016 to 2017. So in our first phrase, we have a dramatic change, and in our second phrase, we have sharply declined. Okay, so let's take a look at the Italian food. If we compare the popularity from 2016 to 2018, we can say there was a gradual climb in the popularity of Italian food from 2016 to 2018. So there we had a gradual climb, so a slow, steady climb. Now, when we describe pie charts, we need to talk about percentages and fractions. So here we have a list of percentages and how we can say them in their fraction form. Now, a lot of these fraction forms we wouldn't use in a presentation to describe our chart because they tend to be a little more confusing. For example, if you have 70%, you probably wouldn't say 7/10. It's clearer to say 70%. But some common fractions that we would use would be 25% or a quarter, 30%, less than a third, 50% or half, and 75% or 3/4. Our pie chart here shows government approval rating. If we look at the disapproval rating, we can say there is a 25% disapproval rating, or a quarter of the people disapprove of the government. If we look at the section of the chart for unsure, we can see that it's at 11%. And you wouldn't describe 11% in a fraction like we did with our 25%, but we can say 11% of the people are unsure. Or another way to say it could be slightly more than 10% of the people are unsure. So slightly more. Now, when we look at the approval rating, we can see that it's at 64%. And with that, again, we're not going to use a fraction form, but we can say well over half of the people approve of the government. So well over, so a lot more than. Or the approval rating is significantly higher than the disapproval rating. Okay guys, that's the end of our lesson today. I'm going to leave you with the list of verbs, adverbs, and nouns, and I'm also going to leave you with the list of percentages converted into fractions. I hope this information was helpful for you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.